Flamingo Books. Shining English Reader Series 8. Chapter 10. Adventures Around the World. Mr. Phileas Fogg was an English gentleman who lived by himself in Savile Row in London. He was not married and seemed to have no relatives. Though he did not hold a regular job, he seemed to be quite rich. He went to his club every day without fail but did not go around town too much. Not much was known about him, even to his friends, except that he was a man with an orderly mind and regular habits, who lived by the clock. Mr. Fogg's own watch not only told him the hour, minute, and second of the day but also the month and the year. He did the same things every day at the same time, to the minute. On the 2nd October 1872, Mr. Fogg engaged a new servant called Passepartout. He had fired his previous servant because he brought in shaving water that was 2 degrees colder than it should have been. Passepartout was a talkative Frenchman who had held a number of different jobs before he came to Mr. Fogg. Mr. Fogg left for his club as usual at 11:30 a.m. after telling Passepartout what his duties were. Passepartout, left alone in the house, wandered around looking at this new domain. He saw that everything was laid out in a neat and tidy manner. Mr. Fogg's clothes and shoes were numbered to show what day and month of the year they were to be worn. Above the clock in the servants' room, Passepartout found a program of the daily routine of the house. Reading the program, he learnt that Fogg rose at exactly 8 in the morning each day and has his tea and toast at 23 minutes past 8. He shaved exactly at 9:37 a.m. and was dressed 20 minutes before 10. Everything that was to be done was regulated and foreseen from 11:30 to midnight, when the methodical gentleman retired. Having examined the house from top to bottom, Passepartout rubbed his hands. A broad smile spread over his face, and he said joyfully, "This is just what I wanted. Ah, we shall get on together. Mr. Fogg and I. What a domestic and regular gentleman. A real machine. Well, I don't mind serving a machine." On the 2nd October 1872, however, everything did not happen exactly as usual in Mr. Fogg's life. While Mr. Fogg and his friend were playing whist, a card game, there was a discussion about a bank robbery that day. £55,000 had been stolen, and it was said that the thief had fled the country in the guise of an English gentleman. Someone at the card table remarked that the thief would escape because the world was a large enough place to hide him. Mr. Fogg, who rarely spoke during the card games, said, "Gentlemen, it is now possible to go around the world in 80 days. The world is no longer such a large place." In those days, trains and steamships were the fastest means of travel, and many parts of the world were still unexplored and unknown. So one of the members, a gentleman called Andrew Stuart, was quite skeptical. But another member of the club, John Sullivan, said, "That is true, gentlemen. Only 80 days, now that the section between Rothal and Allahabad, on the Great Indian Peninsula Railway, had been opened." And he produced a timetable printed in the Daily Telegraph. Then Mr. Fogg did something that was to completely change the even pace of his life. He bet his life savings of £20,000 that he could travel around the world in 80 days. It was exactly 8:45 p.m. on Wednesday, the 2nd October 1872. Mr. Fogg declared he would be back on Saturday, the 21st of December at 8:45 p.m. or all his money would be theirs. Passepartout was surprised when his master got home long before midnight, which was the time given in the daily program. He was even more amazed to be told that they were leaving for France in less than 10 minutes and had no time to pack anything but a traveling bag and all the money there was in the house, which was £20,000. Mr. Phileas and Passepartout had many adventures during their journey around the world, though they did not stay anywhere for very long. Mr. Fogg was interested only in the time it took him to travel from one place to another, not in the places themselves. Passepartout was bitterly disappointed that he could not really see the places they were traveling through. However, he had to follow his master in his headlong rush and couldn't stop and look at the exotic places that they visited. Mr. Fogg arrived at Bombay 2 days ahead of schedule on the ship Mongolia. With Passepartout and Sir Francis Cromarty, an army officer he met on the voyage, he immediately set off on the long rail journey across India to Calcutta. On the way, the train stopped abruptly at Colby, a small place 50 miles from Allahabad, because the railway line had not been built to Allahabad. This was a serious problem for Mr. Fogg. He was wondering if they should set off on foot when Passepartout found a man who could sell them an elephant, and Mr. Fogg bought it for £2,000. After that, with a guide, the group set off for Allahabad on the elephant. In the jungle, they came across the funeral procession of a Maharaja. Mr. Fogg noticed that a semi-conscious, beautifully dressed woman was also being taken along by the Maharaja's people. Mr. Fogg rescued her and continued on their journey, having barely escaped the furious members of the procession who chased them. All this had wasted many of the 48 hours Mr. Fogg had gained on his way to Bombay. Finally, Mr. Fogg and Passepartout reached Calcutta with the young lady who was called Auda. Auda was afraid that the Maharaja's people would follow her and try to kill her. Mr. Fogg also felt that she would not be safe in Calcutta. Therefore, he offered to take her to Hong Kong, where she had a relative who would take care of her. However, in Hong Kong, Mr. Fogg learnt that her relative had left China 2 years ago. Phileas Fogg returned to the hotel and suggested that Auda accompany him on his journey till other arrangements could be made for her. Mr. Fogg, Auda and Passepartout, after many nail-biting adventures, reached the shores of America exactly on schedule on the 3rd of December. They arrived at San Francisco from Yokohama on the ship of General Grant. Now they had to cross America and reach New York by the 11th of December, when a ship was due to sail for London. This rail journey took them 7 days, in the course of which many problems and dangers had to be faced and overcome. On the evening of Saturday the 21st of December, 4 gentlemen were gathered around the card tables in the comfortably furnished room at the Reform Club. They were 2 bankers, John Sullivan and Samuel Falloden, Andrew Stewart, an engineer, and Cothier Ralph, the director of the Bank of England. These were the men who had made the bet with Mr. Fogg. All of them were staring at the clock on the mantelpiece over the fireplace, which showed 20 minutes past 8. Just then Thomas Flanagan, a brewer, entered the room briskly. "Good evening, Mr. Flanagan," said John Sullivan. "It's 20 past 8, and we were wondering where you were." "Good evening, Mr. Sullivan, gentlemen," answered Tom Flanagan. "Oh, there's such a crowd down Pall Mall and all the streets around the club right up to the front door. I could barely make my way in. All of them are waiting to see if Fogg will turn up." The bet that Mr. Fogg had with the members had created quite a fever of suspense in London. There were many wagers laid on Mr. Fogg. A well-known old gentleman called Lord Albemarle had bet £5,000 in his favor. "Well, gentlemen, if Phileas Fogg had come in by the 7.23 train, he would have got here by now. We can therefore consider the bet as won," said Andrew Stewart, barely able to contain his excitement. Falloden, however, felt they shouldn't celebrate too soon. He was of the opinion that Mr. Fogg, well known for being punctual, he never arrived too soon nor too late, and could well appear at the door at the last minute. "Why, if I saw him now, I would not believe it," said Stewart. Ralph declared that Mr. Fogg's project was absurdly foolish. Whatever his punctuality, he could not prevent the delays which were certain to occur, and even a delay of 2 or 3 days would mean the failure of his project. The 4 men had received no news of Mr. Fogg at all, though there were telegraph lines all along his route. Telegrams had been sent to America and Asia, but no one had heard anything of them. The China, the only steamer on which he could have got to London on time, had arrived the previous day, and Fogg's name was not on the passenger list. So the 4 men at the Reform Club felt they were justified in thinking that they had won the bet. Stewart looked up at the clock. "Only 5 minutes more," he said, looking at the others. The tension was unbearable. There was total silence in the room except for the ticking of the clock and the muffled sound of the crowd from outside. John Sullivan said with suppressed excitement that there were 60 seconds left to win. The gentleman now silently counted off the seconds. At the 55th second there was a roar of hurrahs from the crowd outside. The gentlemen rose to their feet and almost immediately the door of the saloon opened and Mr. Phileas Fogg appeared followed by a crowd of people. "Here I am, gentlemen," announced Mr. Fogg.